4 years of love, trust, and quiet dreams came crashing down in a single moment. It wasn't loud, it wasn't dramatic, but it was enough to break something deep inside, the kind of heartbreak that doesn't just hurt the heart, but shakes your entire sense of reality. Because when someone you've built your world around suddenly chooses someone else, it doesn't just end a relationship. It leaves you questioning your worth. Everything that once felt certain now felt like an illusion. The laughter, the promises, the late-night conversations, all of it started to feel like a story that was never meant to last. And in that emptiness, there was silence. A heavy, suffocating silence that made moving forward feel impossible. But life has a strange way of pushing people forward, even when they're not ready. In the middle of that broken state, an unexpected proposal appeared. Not one filled with love or warmth, but something far more unusual: a contract. A marriage not built on emotions, but on terms and conditions. A deal, cold, calculated, and completely devoid of romance. At first, it sounded absurd. How could someone who just lost everything agree to something so emotionless? But sometimes, when a heart is shattered, it stops looking for love. It looks for escape. A way to move on without feeling, without remembering, without hurting again. And so, the decision was made. What started as an agreement quickly turned into a life that felt unfamiliar, living under the same roof with someone who was distant, controlled, and unreadable. Created an atmosphere that was both uncomfortable and strangely intriguing. There was no warmth, no affection, just boundaries. Clear lines that neither side was supposed to cross. But humans aren't designed to live without emotions, no matter how strong the rules are. Days turned into weeks, and something subtle began to change. Not in obvious ways, but in small, almost invisible moments. A glance that lasted a second longer than it should. A quiet act of care that didn't need to be spoken about. A presence that, slowly and quietly, started to feel less like a stranger and more like something familiar. It wasn't love, not yet, maybe not even close, but it was something. At the same time, the past refused to stay buried. Memories have a way of resurfacing when you least expect them. A familiar place, a random song, a simple thought, and suddenly, everything comes rushing back. The pain, the betrayal, the unanswered questions. And then, just when things seemed to be settling into a fragile balance, the past walked back in, seeing the person who once meant everything. It didn't bring closure, it brought confusion, because a part of the heart, no matter how hurt, doesn't forget easily. It holds on, it wonders, it questions whether things could have been different. That's when everything started to feel complicated. On one side, there was a past filled with real love but deep pain. On the other, a present that started as nothing but slowly began to feel safe, not overwhelming, not intense, but steady. And sometimes, after chaos, what the heart truly needs is not passion but peace. The biggest question wasn't about choosing between two people. It was about choosing between two versions of life. One that was familiar but broken, and another that was uncertain but slowly healing. And in that quiet internal battle, something important began to shift. The heart, once desperate for love, started to understand something deeper. Love isn't always about intensity or grand gestures. Sometimes it's about who stays, who shows up, who stands beside you, even when there's no reason to. The cold distance that once defined the contract started to soften, not with words, but with actions. And those actions, no matter how small, began to rebuild something that was once completely lost: trust. But healing is never simple. There were moments of doubt, moments of fear, moments where everything felt like it could fall apart again. Because once someone has been broken that deeply, opening up again feels like the biggest risk in the world. Yet, slowly and quietly, walls began to come down. Not all at once, not dramatically, but piece by piece. And maybe that's what made it real. Because this wasn't a story about perfect love. It was about finding something meaningful after losing everything. It was about realizing that sometimes the most unexpected paths lead to the most genuine connections. In the end, it wasn't the contract that defined the relationship. It was everything that happened after it.